Yo, what's going on, guys? And today, of course, we have to talk about this Duop Reath news coming from Jake Fischer of, I guess, the People's Insider of the Mark Stein line Substack. Either way, Duop Reath, take it with a grain of salt. Allegedly, multiple teams, I'm assuming contending level teams, are interested in Mr. Reath. As first off, he's a phenomenal backup center and a spot starter. He's a guy who he's a good rim runner. He can set screens and he can guard most bigs and some slower footed power forwards. And he doesn't do too much and he's very play disciplined. Like he's not going to go outside of the scheme. He's not going to, demand the ball or hog it. And he's currently making just over $2 million. Next year he'll make 2.2. And the reason why he could be traded is that teams that are hugging the luxury tax or over it can only trade more salary and take back less salary, if that makes sense. So if a team traded $5 million to the Blazers, they could take Reath back as his salary comes in below this year's 2-year minimum service contract value, making him available to any team for a trade. And personally, I think this is great news because this is a guy that we've heard Nick Richards was someone that a lot of teams were interested in, but with Mark Williams having just returned, they don't know what the extent of Nick Richards, availability, as the Hornets want to keep him around until they feel 100% sure that Mark Williams is good. I could imagine a scenario where a team trades for Nick Richards and then ropes the Blazer in to a 3-team trade where Reath goes to the Hornets, Richards goes to the contending team, and then whatever assets go to the Blazers. Mainly, we just see the second round picks. And to me, I think the biggest thing is we are right now looking at a bunch of teams like I think the Bucks would love a guy like Reath to help even out some minutes between Bobby Portis and Brooke Lopez. I think another team would be the Lakers would really like to somehow be able to flip one of their contracts into a guy like Reath. But obviously, you'd assume, for example, if they sent D'Angelo Russell, you'd assume they'd want Matisse Thybulle and Reath, because then they're getting themselves a wing player who's a good defender and a backup center in Reath. While another team like the Clippers, they might send you. I wonder if they'd send you a young guy, whatever young guys you'd be interested in. I doubt they would want to get rid of Jordan Miller, but a guy to be Zubac's backup, Reath would be a really good guy. Even you'd assume the New York Knicks would maybe try to call you up and be like, "Hey, Precious Achiuwa, you want Precious Achiuwa and a few second round picks?" As their team that's trying to keep dodging the luxury tax. So for me, I think it's a really, really, really interesting situation to monitor as we'll see a guy like Duke could really end up by the end of the year playing minutes on a team that is a lot better than one would expect a guy like him to be. So I think it all just comes down to teams that Duke could go to. Am I saying that correctly? As he's someone this year, he's barely played, but last year he in 18 minutes a night, 9 points, almost 4 rebounds, about a block a game, and he was playing in Australia and he cooked. Now, I really do think it's a contending team. I think it's a contending team, and to me, I don't know. If you guys had to choose who's the most likely team at this point, for me, I think he's a real gettable player regardless of the conference. And he's played in China, Illawarra, and he even played in Serbia. So this is a guy who has tons of experience. Australian, by the way, Aussie. I just can't picture specifically a team. I mean, we've talked about the Hawks in the past, looking for some front court help. Maybe they try to find, or even the Pelicans. This could be a short term solution, and the Blazers, of course, could go out and get themselves a guy, but I really think the Pelicans could look at Reath if they don't want to overspend to join Tice, and maybe they entice the Blazers with a guy like, I don't even know if Jeremiah Robinson Earl would entice them, but hey, just like here's Jeremiah Robinson Earl and whoever else. And it'd be maybe just Jeremiah Robinson Earl and whatever second round picks they have remaining, as damn, like I really do think it's gonna be an interesting situation. So that's where I want to hear your opinions, if you're a Blazers fan or not, or if your team could need a center. Would Reef be a guy that you'd have interest in or no? Again, I think it's situational, as he's someone that, depending on what your team needs, he's going to be a player of interest. But beside that, yeah, I'm just having a hard time seeing a specific fit or team that's going to come out and immediately. I really like the Knicks and the other teams that are offered, or a team just trying to move centers and get a cheaper option so they can basically put a new guy in. I don't know. That's my thoughts on that one. Hit the like and subscribe button. If you guys have any other opinions, let me know. I'm going to head out, but I hope you guys did enjoy. That was really just my thoughts on the situation, because I do believe it's it's hard to really just pinpoint a guy that we're gonna go like, oh, he's gonna be clearly a great fit into so and so team, because I feel like I'd be lying at that point. But we know what he's capable of and what his ceiling. 18 minutes a night, he's giving you. He's not an elite rebounder, I will say that. He's gonna be a guy who's gonna finish plays and it'd be fun. But yeah, that's kind of it. It's crazy to think that Reith was really a guy that a few months ago was just signed and people were high on him. And I guess if you looked at it, it was probably always the plan to trade him. But still, it's always surprising when you see who ends up getting traded and who doesn't, as the NBA is a ever-turning cycle. But I don't see him getting more than a second round pick. I really see him being like a 3-team trade type guy, as one team tries to shed salary and they convince a certain, a team to take on the player, and then the Blazers get what, like, either take on a salary dump with second round picks and they send out Reith to one of the teams. I just think that's the way it would work best for anybody involved, as you'd think if a team is trying to get Reith, is because they need a backup center who's cheap and they don't want to go into the market next year where it's probably going to be a bit more expensive than one would suppose. And I'd understand that. So that's where I want to hear your guys' thoughts.